All right. I am about to start a few strikes on my hunter. So I got a sword, bow, and solar calibration. All right, let me get that bow. And do that hand cannon. So I hope everyone had a wonderful Monday, Tuesday. It's Tuesday. I'm gonna say. Did I lose a day? Um, yeah, I've been playing this game all day, and quite happy with it. Quite honest. I'm pretty sure I'm gonna get through all this pretty quickly. Like I haven't even gotten the new fragments yet for the stasis, which I should be doing. Um, strand, the new strand aspects. The Titan one looks really good, and I think I just need to look at a video of the mission because I opened it up and I was at the Veil and I looked at one thing and then I stupidly ran all the way down. Um,
Guardian, we've picked up a high-gain transmission. Origin point is somewhere along the coast, near the Cosmodrome.
That's Rasputin, the AI Warmind. If I'm understanding him correctly, it's a distress call. There are so few ballet fans left, Guardian. It'd be a shame to lose him.
We can't afford another Omnigul situation. Get in there, assess the threat, and aid rescue. A threat to the Warmind is a threat to the city as well.
Военный спутник запущен. Коды доступа внутри.
Sorry this is taking so long. These sequences are incredibly complex. Plus, I'm actually not that great at math. So...
I'm detecting comm signals deep in the vault.
Anyone with a radio could have picked up Rasputin's distress call. If we don't shut it down, half the Cosmodrome could be at his front door. Could try to hack us through, but Rasputin might handle that poorly. His system's already stressed. Must be some other way to bypass his system.
Система сломана. Нанесен урон. Запущено планирование контрмер.
He's not happy.
I've probably got to get my new
That's all that
strand.
matters right now.
New strand aspect. I don't really want to suspend. I get the 2 grenades, yeah, but I would love to turn my tangles into.
Oh, great. Archstream.
Now, how's he doing that? I have no idea.
You've seen worse, Guardian. Push through.
What's he wearing? Oh. New attack. I kind of want that now. Is that, it must be available today. Oh no, they said it's a glitch on the Aluna.
As a fellow inorganic life form, I just want to note that Rasputin has a much better setup than I do. He has a secret bunker, space weapons. I live in your backpack.
Высокий приоритет мобильному юниту. Уничтожить его немедленно.
That shank's been modified to hack his system. Let's take it out. thank you from the old man.
The Fallen will claim nothing from this breach, not even the debris. I'm sending a fire team to seal the complex. This cannot happen again. It will not. Thanks to you, Guardian, the dream of the city lives on, without fear of weapons in the sky.
Okay. Where did I get the hand cannon idea from? 'Cause there's no hand cannon bounty that. Oh, there it is. I see it now. I was going to stream on TikTok, but I think I'd rather listen to podcasts. So I'm going to do that.
Taken and then released on $200,000 bond. So let's talk about this. You always watch these debates. Why are you tuning in? What are you looking for in this debate?
Well, I was talking to Julie Mason yesterday, and I worked for years for the military, and I said my feeling about the debate is like the joke officer evaluation that said his men would follow him anywhere, but mostly out of morbid curiosity. And, it's like, yeah, I'm going to watch the debate in part because I'm going to write about it, and like you, I'm a writer and a morbid commenter and all that. Mm-hmm. But also, there's a part of me that just, you got to be kidding me that we're going to have a debate between Chris Christie and Vivek Ramaswamy. And how is this even possible? A lot of people, and I know, Charlie, you and I have dealt with this for years. How could you guys have ever been Republicans? And everybody knew the blah, blah, blah. There was a time when the Republican Party was the boring adult party that was all about, the kind of the get things done party. I guess I'm going to tune in because I still can't accept that the Republican Party has turned into a freak show.
It is a freak show, obviously.
I'm every now and then, even after all these years, after almost a decade, every now and then I'm kind of still in denial. I mean, let's be more practical about it. First of all, I am curious to see if someone solidifies, if the Excalibur of fighting directly with Trump gets passed to someone who will actually wield it. Because every time I think of debates, I think of Christie and Ramaswamy and, some of these other, but the person, who has fallen out of all this is Ron DeSantis. DeSantis was supposed to be the Trump slayer. He's barely, you posted that video the other day of him grinding his teeth.
Next door picture of Homelander. And again, that's kind of a deep dive for some people because that is spooky.
It was creepy.
Because once you see Ron DeSantis as Homelander, and that's from the show The Boys, you're not going to be able to unsee it. Just trust me.
It's like Homelander without the charisma or the superpowers, but yeah.
So you said he was supposed to be the 10-foot tall Trump slayer, and now he is walking with chunks of his campaign falling and burning globs out of the sky.
Wow. Well, yeah.
I just love reading these things, that he needs to have a strong debate. He needs to hit it out of the park. I just don't think that's going to be happening. I am sorry.
Now there are people who are going to be staring at his jaw, but I think the question is, if the sword is going to pass, from him, where does it go? And also, I'm fascinated to see who aligns with whom. And I'm glad Asa Hutchinson's going to be there. I'm kind of hoping Hutchinson's the guy who just throws, it's kind of our surrogate there, right? The Charlie and Tom guy who throws up his hands and says, what are we doing here? What the hell is going on here? Because he's kind of been that guy. I'm just curious to see if there's any flicker of integrity or truth-telling or honesty, because, there are still plenty of Republicans who don't want Donald Trump. And I think, it's kind of curious to see who picks up that torch.
Yeah. And the problem is people keep talking about, the breakout moments. I mean, there's a couple of problems with that. Number one, how many people are actually going to be watching? I don't know. Number two, were there 8 people on stage? And so I'll be honest, the way that I watch and listen is that I put it on mute when certain people are talking because I don't care what Doug Burgum has to say. I'm sorry. If somebody asks me about him, tomorrow, I'll just say, yeah, I wasn't paying any attention. Sorry.
But you're undercutting the possibility of Burgum momentum.
Obviously, I want to watch Chris Christie, who has become, I think, has sort of found his own rhythm to return to one of the most impressive performance artists in politics, and he has no bleeps left to give. I am interested to see whether they go after Vivek Ramaswamy, because I think that they will. I think that he's going to be the punching bag, because if you're Nikki Haley and you want to show that you can kick with those sharp heels, but you don't want to go after the MAGA Precious, beat the crap out of Vivek, who every single day says something not just deplorable but batshit crazy, whether it's about 9/11 or whether it's it is really a sign of the degradation of our politics that Vivek Ramaswamy, who is complete fraud phony, is the hot new thing in our politics. And you want to talk about the trivialization of our politics?
Right. A guy who never voted and who I think crossed the line. I mean, he could sell himself as, I'm, sort of charmingly naive, rich guy, kind of the younger Ross Perot. Well, I don't know a lot about all this crazy stuff you guys do, but I think he crossed the line with the 9/11 thing. That is a sacred and horrible thing that Americans, you don't mess with 9/11. And the only people that can mess with 9/11 are people that by definition, I think the vast majority of Americans have just defined away as crackpots and conspiracy theorists.
That's not even a MAGA thing.
Right. It's that even the MAGA folks, you don't go down that road about 9/11. You can come up with all kinds of terrible things about COVID and vaccines and UFOs and all that other horseshit. But when you start talking about 9/11, you've really crossed the line. And I'll be curious to see if anybody calls them out on it.
And then, of course, there's Mike Pence, and we don't know which Mike Pence will show up, whether it will be the guy that will take on Donald Trump or will forget to say his name.
Oh, he won't say it.
Nobody's going to beat up on Tim Scott, I'm guessing. So there's an advantage that he has, right? He's the one guy that nobody's going to say anything about.
He'll be avuncular and charming and funny, and everyone will nod politely and say, great guy, too bad he has no chance at all.
I have a question for you. I talked about this in our other podcast that I do with Mona Charin, and I could argue both sides of all of this. The conventional wisdom is that part of Donald Trump's reptilian genius is knowing that being arrested the day after the debate will suck all the oxygen out of the room, and because he's such a genius, he knows that he will be able to knock down any bump that anybody gets out of the debate. I mean, that's the conventional wisdom, the new normal now. I sort of have this residual before times thought, though, that the split screen is going to be pretty stark, where you have these candidates standing on stage running for president, some of them occasionally talking about things of substance, versus Donald Trump walking into the Atlanta jail to be arrested and charged with 13 more felonies, including racketeering. I understand that cliche that no publicity is bad publicity. I don't know, some publicity is bad publicity. And if you're Ron DeSantis or you're Mike Pence or Chris Christie, this split screen of, okay, Republicans, this is one future, these people who are alternatives, versus this guy who is going to spend the next year and a half in and out of jails and courtrooms and arraignments, and you're going to see his mugshot. I don't know that this is the genius move that some of the smart kid pundit class is saying it is. What do you think? You're one of the smart kid pundits.
I don't buy what the other cool kids are saying.
Breaking with the cool kids.
I know it's kind of to underestimate the MAGA base. You can rarely go wrong on that. And they're going to tell pollsters, and they're going to say, we like him more now that he's been indicted 100 million times.
Right.
But nobody likes that. Trump doesn't like it. By reports that we're seeing, people near him, he's scared out of his mind. If possible, he's become even crazier. I mean, at some point, he's just going to violate the terms of his release. I mean, that's going to take all of 10 minutes before either Tanya Chutkan or the judge in Georgia is going to haul him in for threatening witnesses again.
Absolutely.
I guess part of the reason I'm going to watch the debate is, wouldn't it be awesome, and this is just my wish casting, wouldn't it be awesome if someone says, look, while we're here, like that line from Dr. Strangelove, while we're here chatting so amiably, that Donald Trump is going to be arraigned. Is this our party? I want to know around this room, who of you, why aren't we together? And I understand millions of people want this person, but it's time to speak truth to our own voters, even if we lose. And then for all the joking about somebody like Doug Burgum, there are a lot of people who have the complete freedom to say this out loud in this debate. But I think that split screen, Charlie, it's not just that it'll rattle, I think, MAGA world, because I think it does. And I think they're just really good about bamboozling the press into saying that it doesn't. But the more important point is that all of the other millions of people who are not Republicans, who are independents, who are Democrats, who could have been moved either to stay home or to kind of take a flyer the way they did in 2016. And, we already saw it in 2020 that there were just millions of people like, can't go through this again. And I think with this much drama, that I've been banging this gong for a while. Put Trump on TV 24/7. Let people see exactly what they're getting. Make them have to listen to him. Don't let anybody out there ever say, well, I didn't know that was happening, or I didn't hear that, or I didn't see it happen. Because I think, by fall of 2024, people are like, look, I don't care if Joe Biden's old. I don't care if I don't particularly like Kamala Harris. I can't live through more of this guy and his hijinks. It's embarrassing. It's humiliating. It's dangerous.
I don't know that a majority of Republicans will think that way, but a significant enough minority to make a difference. So
to make a difference in the general.
Yeah, I mean, keep in mind that this is on Fox. So in terms of the hermetically sealed alternative reality silos, when Chris Christie says something along those lines, when Asa Hutchinson calls him out, or any of the other candidates, when Mike Pence says, he was wrong, that is going to be beamed out to listeners of Fox. Not to mention that Trump's whole deal here was basically to say, screw you, Fox. Now, look, he's got the experience of 2016, knowing that he can insult Fox, boycott Fox, and that they will come back, like be puppies to him. So, I mean, he's got reason to believe that he's not going to pay a price. But it is interesting that his counter programming is going to be this interview with Tucker Carlson on Twitter. And that feels, I'm sorry, diminished. It's a diminishment for Tucker, and it's a diminishment for Trump, who's then going to be doing, what ought to be a walk of shame in Atlanta. So I'm just not sure that this is the genius move that everybody attributes to.
And the choice of Tucker is interesting because the minute he announced it, a lot of the stories about it and a lot of the social media announcements about it were prefaced with Tucker's immortal comment, I hate him passionately. It's like, oh, right.
Let's not forget that one.
Trump is going to go to the guy who obviously hates him, but now they're going to pretend to like each other. Tucker's going to grovel because he has no choice now. Somebody in there can have a viral moment that will swamp this Tucker thing. I mean, there's not going to be a lot of coverage, I think, and maybe I could be wrong about this, but because of the venue, because it's Tucker Carlson, not a lot of people are going to want to spend a lot of time trying to find stuff to pull out of that Tucker Carlson interview. And people don't watch Twitter. They watch television.
Wells Fargo lets you know where you stand with your FICO credit score. What if you knew where you stood with everything, like your kids' friends?
Hey, boys.
How do cows stay informed?
Ah, don't.
They read the Moo paper. Mr. Otis, you're the funniest.
It's good to know where you stand. And when it comes to your FICO credit score, you can with a Wells Fargo account.
Visit wellsfargo.com/getfico to learn more. Terms and conditions apply. FICO is a registered trademark of Fair Isaac Corporation in the United States and other countries. Wells Fargo Bank N.A. member FDIC.
At Wells Fargo, if you accidentally overdraw your account, we give you an extra day grace period to avoid the overdraft fee. What if everything came with an extra day?
Sunday night and I have the Sunday scaries.
Honey, don't be scared. Every weekend comes with an extra day now.
All right. TGI Sunday.
You don't still have an extra day. When it comes to overdrafts, you can with Wells Fargo.
Visit wellsfargo.com/getextra to learn more. Terms and conditions apply. Subject to timing requirements and the bank's funds availability policy. Wells Fargo Bank N.A. member FDIC.
Let's spend about 5 minutes on this question of Twitter, X, and Elon Musk, because you've been a dead ender on all of this, hanging on by your fingernail. I don't know what's going on with Elon Musk. I don't know whether the drugs or some sort of decompensation. I don't know what's happening, but it does appear that his business model is to vandalize the site to make it as unusable as possible. He's now saying that he's going to make it impossible to block people. He's going to eliminate headlines from articles. I don't even know where these ideas come from. And you've been hanging in there, and then you're a big user, but Twitter, it feels as if it is imploding in real time.
First of all, again, it's that morbid curiosity factor, right? That I'm sort of curious to watch, again, kind of a Dr. Strangelove image. I'm sort of curious to watch Musk ride the bomb all the way down to the end.
Now, that's a great image. That's a good one. Yeah.
You know, with a hat, woo, like the rodeo clown going down on the bump. But I'm also curious to see if at some point, Twitter is a valuable thing. It's a valuable service. I'm just wondering if anybody ever steps in to return it to being some sort of news source. But I think what's really interesting about it, your point about him vandalizing the site, I don't think that's it, because if he really wanted to just trash it, he could have bought it, trashed it, sold off the parts, done what he could to recoup his money, and then gotten back to dealing with the problem that Twitter stock is like worth 60% of what it was.
Yeah.
And that SpaceX is having all kinds of problems, and that he himself seems to be, as you pointed out, kind of decompensating somehow. I don't know that he set out to do that, but I think what you're really seeing, and the Ronan Farrow piece that came out yesterday, I think was pretty damning in this regard. You're seeing somebody who, it's kind of like when Trump couldn't take being mocked by Obama, that we are now dealing with a whole group of politicians and rich guys who are just determined to punish everybody in some way, because at some point in their lives, they got stuffed into a locker. And I think, Musk comes across that way. Well, these news sources, they're not friendly to me, so I'll throttle them. And nobody will leave, because you people want to be with me because I'm the cool kid and I can do this. And of course, everybody says, what the fuck are you doing? And he goes, well, okay. And he turns it back on. And he says, well, I'm going to eliminate blocking. And everybody said, James Woods, he gets into a pissing match with James Woods, who has 2.5 million followers. And in a fit of pique, he said, well, delete your account. Well, okay, that's a great strategy. Tell the right-wing influencers with 2.5 million followers who have supported you up until now to go fuck right off. That's incredible. And I think, again, it's because he's such a fragile and immature guy. You can't take anybody criticizing him. You just can't deal with it.
I think that's true.
And I think that's what you're seeing. And again, I'm sort of watching that. I'm kind of, it's morbid fascination to see a 50-odd-year-old man. At one point, I tweeted something like, I wonder how everybody at Twitter feels that their salaries and their pensions and their futures are all dependent on what is, in effect, a 9-year-old billionaire.
Well, the political significance is that as Twitter is kind of teetering on the edge, and I don't know about you, but a lot of people are saying they get a lot less engagement, it's a lot less influential, a lot less useful. There's a lot of problems with it. But it was at this moment that Ron DeSantis decided to basically run a Twitter campaign, which is with Elon Musk. And you can see that every one of his talking point is appealing to Twitter. And where's Donald Trump? Donald Trump is back on Twitter with a guy that's been fired at the moment when people are going, this is hard to use. This is like what?
I have to say, one of the big failed predictions, I will totally own that I thought that Trump would not be able to resist coming back to Twitter.
I thought so too. And I agreed with you. And who knows whether he will at some point.
Right.
And we'll see what his ongoing relationship is with Fox, because very clearly, if he thinks going back onto Twitter will screw somebody that he doesn't like, he will do it.
In a way, Truth Social is even better for him because he does it, and then people just put it on Twitter as a screenshot, and that way he doesn't have to put up any shit from people that own the platform. He doesn't have to worry about, people that run the trust section, if there are any left. But I think it's been a fascinating kind of dance here, watching Musk really not understand any of this, and just, this is what happens when you do things in a fit of pique. And I think that today, apparently, today is Tuesday here in Radio World, so Zuckerberg, and by the way, what a rehabilitation of Mark Zuckerberg because of Elon Musk. Up until now, Zuck was like the dark prince, everybody hated Zuck. And now they're going, hey, Zuck, if you get that cage match, kick his ass, He's
got to get Threads up and running now.
He's rolling up a desktop version today, apparently.
Okay, good, because it's not going to be a thing until there is something like that. Okay, so I want to get your take on another big mega issue here, okay? There is a huge amount of, shall we say, resistance wish casting. I'm kind of giving away where I'm going on this, about the disqualification of Donald Trump. Now, I devoted an entire one of my Morning Shots newsletter to this original law review paper that argues very, very forcefully and very persuasively that Section 3 of the 14th Amendment to the Constitution clearly disqualifies Donald Trump from ever being president again, and disqualifies him from being able to run. And this was written by two very, very prominent conservative legal scholars, members of the Federalist Society. It is a very powerful argument. I think that they are right on the Constitution. So does Judge Michael Ludig, conservative former federal judge, and Lawrence Tribe, Harvard law professor, professor who write in your publication, The Atlantic, that they agree with this, that the Constitution bars Donald Trump from ever serving again, and suggesting that there'd be legal action to kick him off the ballot or to go to the Supreme Court, whatever. What do you make of this? Where is this going?
I think it was a marvelous, and thank you for reminding folks that they can read the tri-blooded piece in The Atlantic. I thought it was remarkable and heartening to see a very conservative and a very liberal jurist both agree that this is true, but I don't think it's going to mean a thing. I don't think it matters at all, unless and until some group of secretaries of state who control the ballots, right? They control ballot access, basically go to federal court and then all the way to the Supreme Court in the next 10 minutes and say, we want a ruling on this 14th Amendment issue, and that we want to be able to decide this. And until somebody does that, it's a great talking point. Okay, one cheer for the Federalist Society. I'm sure that the writers, I don't know them personally, so I'm going to say I'm sure they are men of probity who believe what they wrote. But I also think that there are a lot of guys at the Federalist Society saying, another 4 years of this, we might get some more judges, and then the whole conservative movement is pretty much over. I mean, back in 2016, you and I were warning about this. If you are a Republican, if you care about the conservative movement, if you care about conservative ideas at all, Donald Trump is going to end that. And I think we're seeing that right now, that the country is moving to the left. Some ways that I agree with, some ways that I don't. But I think that there are a lot of conservatives out there saying, this guy has to be stopped before he completely destroys whatever was left of conservatism in America. Because Donald Trump is not a conservative. He's not a Republican. He's, Donald Trump. He's a caudillo. He's a buccaneer. He's in it for himself. And I think, okay, it's great that it came from the Federalist Society, but thank you for the opinion. Now tell us how to enforce it. Tell us how you actually get this done.
This is my problem. I want to make it very clear that I think this is a fantastic work of scholarship. I think that they are right about this. I think that they are right on the law. I believe they understand, the real meaning and the import of the 14th Amendment. But the key word is, okay, so what is the mechanism to enforce it? Because as we know, the Constitution does not enforce itself. Something has to happen. And short of a majority ruling by the U.S. Supreme Court next week, right? However that happened, that in fact Donald Trump is disqualified. I don't see that this goes anywhere. Also, I do think it's legitimate to say, how can he be disqualified before there's an adjudication that says that you committed these acts? I mean, I think that's not a small detail. And I guess I'm also concerned that this wish casting is going to lead people down some dangerous political paths. So, for example, let's imagine that some progressive activists here in the state of Wisconsin bring suit against elections officials saying that Donald Trump, because of Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, is disqualified from being president, and therefore they are suing to have him excluded from the Wisconsin ballot in a swing state like Wisconsin. And let's say that the Wisconsin Supreme Court, that is now dominated by liberals, agrees with them. Now, wait, you can see the backlash on this if it's a state-by-state thinking, particularly if we are arguing that we need to preserve democracy. This is going to be an on-fire talking point on the right. Now, I'm not endorsing it. I'm just saying, they're saying, wait, you are taking away our right to even vote for this candidate? You are taking him off the ballot? How is that not anti-democratic? So in some ways, that creates an issue that I think, now look, I understand that we are not actual democracies, that there are reasons why we have the Constitution. There are reasons why we have the rule of law that basically says that, the majority doesn't get to do anything. There is accountability. I understand all of those intellectual arguments, but the enforcement could be very messy and in some ways could be counterproductive. What do you think? I'm worried about it.
I think there's two problems. One is I disagree with you that there needs to be an official adjudication, because giving aid and comfort to insurrectionists, there's no federal code about that. The Constitution put that in there in some sense that we would all know it when we saw it, right?
There has to be a finding that it happened, though, right? I mean, there has to be a finding that,
right. And somebody needs to make that finding, and of course that somebody is probably Congress, and that's not going to happen.
No.
My wish casting, by the way, on this, when I had too many margaritas after the beach, is when I sit back and say, a handful of Republicans join with Democrats, impeach Trump again, it goes to the Senate convicts and rules him ineligible for any further, federal office, and it's all done by the book.
I have a question, Professor. My hand is up. How many margaritas did you have to come up with that idea?
That's usually when I'm sitting there talking with Eleanor Roosevelt, Abraham Lincoln. I think barring that, you're going to need the Supreme Court. And you would need a bunch of secretaries of state. And you're right, because then the next move, if this actually happened, is that in 2028, you'd have a bunch of people saying, well, we don't want Kamala Harris on the ballot, or we don't want so-and-so on the ballot. But the saddest part of all this is that the real mechanism of enforcement for this kind of issue should be, and I'm going to go all James Madison here, should be the virtue and decency of the American public.
Yeah.
Our Constitution does not rely, as much as people think it does, on black letter law.
We have learned
it relies on a basic decency. I've been throwing this quote out over and over again with Madison talking about the Constitution. If there is no virtue among us, if there is no virtue among us, then we're in a terrible place. That no checks, no balances, no legal promises can solve the fix we're going to be in. And the problem is that millions of people who in an earlier and better time time would have said, look, I don't agree with Joe Biden. I don't like, I don't like abortion. I don't like big government, whatever it is. But a basic circuit breaker of decency would kick in to say, but no matter what, Donald Trump cannot be the nominee of a major party. It's just not, it can't happen. It's not allowable. And that circuit breaker is completely blown now by people who say, I don't care. There was an interview that Jordan Klepper, the invaluable Jordan Klepper, did with a Trump supporter, where she finally admitted, okay, he did it. And he said, if I could show you that he did these things, would it change your mind? And she said, sure. And so he says, well, here's what he did, here's what he did. There was this long pause, and she nodded, and she said, I don't care. There's nothing you can do. There is no legal decision or Supreme Court case that can restore a sense of fundamental decency to the voters until they make a decision that they don't want to be that kind of person anymore. And I don't know what to do about that other than...
And the founder didn't know either. I mean, clearly, James Madison was not naive about this. Remember, I mean, he wrote in the Federalist, if men were angels, no government would be necessary. If angels were to govern men, neither external nor internal controls on government would be necessary, which is why you had all those external and internal controls. But even with that, no one imagined that someone like Donald Trump would ever be elected president.
Well, Hamilton kind of did. He and others worried about it. But even John Adams was like, I wonder if we can hold this thing together for, 1 or 2 more generations. Yeah. Because without basically, a decent public, this whole thing, our Constitution is made for religious people. It's and not this kind of cultish, sort of religion as like cudgel to bash other people, but people have some sense of, transcendence, of that some things are transcendently important, that you are part of a community, that where there are people who came before you, there are people who are going to come after you. We are the stewards of our institutions. We are the stewards of our government, that we inherit it and then we pass it on. That's gone. This is now in the hands of people that are like, look, I'm playing it's a reality TV show, and I'm playing a game, and I don't care what happens, 10 or 15 or 20 years from now. And I don't care about the Constitution because I've never read it. And I don't care about the law because I think, everything's rigged against me. It's people who are just cosseted in this cocoon of rage, me. Why doesn't anybody listen to me when, in fact, they're being taken to the cleaners? And I was talking about this with somebody yesterday. I said, these people who love Donald Trump, if they knew someone like Donald Trump in their daily life, they would hate him. Absolutely. And these are working guys who, Trump walked in and said, hey, I'm stiffing you on your paycheck, and I'm going to grab your sister. These guys would lose their mind. They'd punch him out. But when he does it from a stage, they say, that's my guy.
Well, all the soccer parents out there, we're hearing a lot about parents' rights and how hard it is to raise a kid these days. What parent would want Donald Trump to be a role model, in terms of sportsmanship and all of those things? I guess it's the experiment, whether you can sort of have a bifurcation, whether or not you can live lives of virtue and responsibility in your personal life and hope that your political positions don't leak out.
The founders did not think so, Charlie. The founders made the argument that if you live an unvirtuous private life, you will eventually bleed into an unvirtuous public life.
Conservatives used to believe that.
Right. We used to talk about character, the character issue, that, the thing that was more important than your position on any one issue was that you had the appropriate character to hold public office. And they have completely thrown that out the window. I had hoped that any number of things would kind of snap us out of this narcissistic coma. But I think, again, to end on that same dark note, I think these are people who have just climbed way too far up that tree. Yeah. The psychic cost of that climb down for them, they would rather watch the world burn than deal with the psychic cost of having to admit that they were taken. I mean, are their lives any better after 4 years of Trump? Did he change anything? Did he save their communities? Did he build factories in, Ohio? He did none of that, and still drains money out of their pockets. A billionaire, nominally a billionaire, draining money out of their pockets to pay his legal bills, and they write those checks with a smile on their face.
Okay, so to your point before, in your personal life, you've known people who have lied to your face. This affects your relationship, and you don't trust them, right? You probably terminate the relationship at a certain point. If somebody rips you off, if somebody cheats you out of money, you don't do business with them anymore. It is this weird thing that, and I wrote this for your publication, The Atlantic, that we right now, at this moment, have the lowest possible standards for the presidency of the United States, that we would not apply to anything else in our life. The coaches, the people we hire, the people we would hire to walk our dogs or look after our children, or would run the local car wash. None of that would apply. So the problem is going to be long term, since we're now taking the long term, is after Trump, after all of this is all done, we have to rebuild that civic virtue. We have to rebuild all of those qualities. And the institution that would be essential to doing that would be, I think, churches. And wow, I'm cringing to saying that, because this one institution that we will ultimately have to look to, to make people understand the difference between right and wrong and the importance of virtue and everything. We've seen the complete corruption of the churches in this era of Trump as well. So that also, I think, creates a long-term lingering problem.
Some of that is alien to me. People that have followed us know that I'm Greek Orthodox. And so, I come from a religion that doesn't do a lot of politics from the pulpit. And in fact, I can remember even 30 years ago that my church was criticized for not being more activist and good works out in the world and all that stuff. But I think there is something very American about this problem that religion gets turned on its head, that you go to church not because you believe in what's going on there, because you go for this sense of power of political, but you go there for worldly power instead of going there to let go of the world for an hour. That you go there because it puts you even more in the world, that the sermons you're getting are about the world and not about, being a good person and, the sacrifice of Jesus Christ and, all of these other things that, people a lot better versed in this than me have written great stuff about, people like Pete Wayner and Russell Moore, have written with great passion and pain about this. Yeah. But I think the other thing that can do it, Charlie, I think is people letting go of nationalizing everything and kind of restoring some sense of moral order and cooperation in small communities. How about instead of arguing about Donald Trump, you work with your neighbors to get the potholes filled, or that, that you have enough police in your community, or that you have, a public park that's cleaned up. People don't do that because of this narcissistic nationalization and heroic narrative. Everybody wakes up in the morning and says, I'm going to save the world. Well, you know what? How about you save the park down the street? And I think that these small scale projects are places where state legislators, but again, I'm sorry, I was optimistic for a moment. Let me now remind you, however, that the state Republican parties have been completely captured by Trump and Trumpists. And, maybe that's where you start, is just flush out these, there's no point in being a Trumpist on the city council, because in the end, that doesn't matter. You've got to pick up the garbage,
This is a non-trivial point that you're making here, that if you take out some of the top line, Trump versus, or, some of the cultural issues, the reality is that people aren't that divided, right? And they can work. And then you begin to focus on actual real world things as opposed to your identity, the attitude that you strike. And I've noticed that you can have, really interesting conversations with people who disagree with you on a lot of things, as long as you don't focus on those top lines. So anyway, Tom, it has been a great conversation. Hopefully it has not been too dark. And if it was too dark, it was still pretty good. I mean, it is what it is.
It's hard not to be.
We're not the crazy ones.
Part of the problem is that when things look this dark, it means you're absolutely and properly comprehending the current political situation. But, we're still here, and there's still a chance that this age of Trump ends sooner than we might think. I think, I always hope that with a cult, the way cults often end is that the fever breaks. And I think that that's the hopeful thing, is that somehow this ends, and rather than a kind of big reckoning and all that Trump just goes off and he deals with all his court cases, and millions of Americans say, well, okay, kind of back to work, back to real life. Maybe I'm too optimistic about that. We can't end on a total dark note, but I'm hoping that's what happens.
Well, there is a difference between hope and optimism, which we have discussed in the past. I'm not necessarily an optimist, but I am, hope means that we will continue to work for a better future. And thank you so much for joining us today. I appreciate it, Tom.
My pleasure, Charlie.
And thank you all for listening to today's Bulwark podcast. I'm Charlie Sykes. We will be back with the Trump trials tomorrow. We are scheduled to talk with former Congressman Adam Kinzinger on Thursday to recap Wednesday night's debate. And of course, Tim and I will wrap up the whole week on Friday. Thanks for listening. The Bulwark podcast is produced by Katie Cooper and engineered and edited by Jason Brown.
Wells Fargo gives you access to direct deposit funds up to 2 days early.
Plus, if you look at the X and Y axis.
What if everything came 2 days early? Like the weekend.
That was a pleasant surprise.
You can't get everything early, but when it comes to direct deposits, you can with Wells Fargo.
Visit wellsfargo.com/get-early to learn more. Terms and conditions apply. Not all direct deposits are eligible. Early availability is not guaranteed and may vary between deposits from the same payer. Wells Fargo Bank and member FDIC.
Wells Fargo lets you know where you stand with your FICO credit score. What if you knew where you stood with everything, like your kids' friends?
Hey, boys, how do cows stay informed?
Don't.
They read the Moo paper. Mr. Otis, you're the funniest.
It's good to know where you stand. And when it comes to your FICO credit score, you can with a Wells Fargo account.
Visit wellsfargo.com/getFICO to learn more. Terms and conditions apply. FICO is a registered trademark of Fair Isaac Corporation in the United States and other countries. Wells Fargo Bank.
Okay. I've been thinking about whether or not I'm going to play with my clanmates tomorrow. Probably not.
Checking now.
Let's see what we've got for each other.
Let's get you back out there.
Is that a new one? Oh, wow. It's from way back. I wouldn't get that anyway.
Take it. Good eye. Every little bit helps. Trust me.
Yeah, I'm kind of overloaded.
Good to have you back.
Yeah, I'm going to take a break. I am looking forward to the live stream this evening. I made sure to put a little link in the description to the live stream. I'm probably going to be playing this. We're going to be talking about masculinity and whatever else I happen to put in the news section, which I'm going to be working on soon. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying this new season. It's already got new weapons that, like I said, that rocket launcher looks like one I'd like to craft. I would like to get the grenade launcher from Vox Obscura, and maybe some other things that I missed last season. Who knows? All right, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.